second story, where the continuing recovery woes in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands continue weeks after Hurricanes Maria and Irma roared through those territories, and people are still having trouble getting basic necessities. In Dorado, just west of San Juan, people are bathing and drinking water from several wells despite concerns that they could be contaminated. Several people have died from bacterial infections. Now the EPA is investigating whether the water from those wells is safe to drink. Part of this area was added to the U.S. Superfund last year, meaning it is so polluted, the sites are considered to be a priority to clean up. Though the EPA says so far none of the water that's been tested in Puerto Rico is contaminated, the larger problem is that the electrical grid is mostly not working. Right now, about 15% of the island has power, which complicates the ability to pump, treat, and distribute water.
Our priorities are food and water delivery, as well as medicine and other utilities. Secondly, sustaining and maintaining hospitals. That means medicines, equipment, generators, and energizing hospitals so that they can give service to our vulnerable populations. The recovery of the energy grid, water distribution, telecoms, and ports.
And, of course, Donald Trump passes the buck. Yesterday at the news conference, he told reporters Puerto Rico had electrical and financial issues way before the hurricanes hit.
Now, you're going to have to build a whole new electrical plant system. We're not talking about generators. You know, Puerto Rico now has more generators, I believe, than any place in the world. There are generators all over the place. The fact is, their electrical system was in horrible shape before and even worse shape after. So we are working right now. As you know, relief funds were just approved and are in the process of being approved by Congress. And that includes Texas, by the way. That includes Florida. And it also includes Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, et cetera.
And, of course, he touts how well a job they've done, even though a CNN poll shows that approval numbers in terms of how he's handled the hurricanes has dropped from 64% in September to just 44%. Joining me now via Skype from Miami is Jacqueline Charles, the Caribbean correspondent from the Miami Herald, who just returned from that area. Jacqueline, you were there. Give us a sense of what you saw in the Puerto Rico area.
Well, I can tell you, they're still struggling. I mean, they're still struggling to recover, to get back. I mean, the president is right in terms of the lack of electricity and the problem with the grid. But the reality, as you reported, people are drinking water that's contaminated. People are really trying to figure out what to do. A lot of them are fleeing or coming back to the mainland. A lot of them moving to Florida. At the same time, we see with the U.S. Virgin Islands, I mean, they've reported that Royal Caribbean is back in St. Thomas. They've reopened schools. But again, nobody is talking about the U.S. Virgin Islands. You know, everybody's talking about Puerto Rico. So I was in St. Croix last week. We went on a relief flight. Could you imagine going on vacation and being stuck in a place, 2-3 weeks after the fact you can't get out? They're trying to get back, but it's very difficult because in St. Croix specifically, the area that was hit the hardest is where locals live. It's not where the resorts are, but it's, the Sandy Point area. And those people are having a very difficult time getting back on their feet.
Jacqueline, there's a tweet that went out from @News of St. John. This was a tweet that went out 3 days ago. It says, St. John, an island in the U.S. Virgin Islands, has been without power since September 6th. Please keep loving and supporting us. Please retweet. September 6th.
Yes, September 6th. I mean, and that is reality. You have, and it's not just St. John's. I was in Dominica over the weekend. I was in Barbuda. I mean, completely devastated. I mean, Dominica is an entire island in the Eastern Caribbean. So Category 5 made landfall. They still do not have power, barely have cell phone communication. The same thing when we were in St. Croix, which is right next to St. John. They barely had communication. So this is a very difficult situation in terms of how do you get back? I mean, here in Florida, people were screaming after just a couple of days with no power. So imagine you're down in the Caribbean where it's really hot. You've already lost your home, destroyed. Some people are in shelter. Some people are living in their houses that are partially collapsed, and you still have no electricity.
All right, then. Jacqueline Charles, Miami Hero. We surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh, my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no.
That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
He
Unfiltered.
wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV One.